And I would like to briefly introduce myself. I'm Silvia Covarino. I'm associate professor at the German University in Cairo at the moment, and I'm working in the urban field and the urban scale, and will be my pleasure this evening to have a talk and discuss with you after about the interaction between the urban space and the built environment. This is my title, Contemporary City, Urban Design for the Space in Between. I decided to focus and to observe, to give you some reflection over in few, let's say, contemporary recent projects in the urban environment. Let's start. Mind the gap, architects fitting extraordinary building into the small space. When we are talking about the space in between, probably our attention and our consideration is to fill the space at the beginning. And this was an interesting article. I use it as a start of my presentation, and is a kind of observation on this is interesting small project, for example, in the space in between the two buildings, no, and it's related also about the issue of the missed space in according to this urban growth and the needs of the urban population, especially. No, how the building has been replaced with a special space in between, and in this intermediate space, sometimes has been filled with more and more space. And this was the same interesting intervention, how the object, how the difference between the built environment and the space in between and the filled space, and consider the contemporary architecture how can match with existing environment there. And this was some note about the author of the project. This has been created a multi-store office in this existing context. Then when on a very simple way, when we are thinking about the space in between, always we are thinking to extend, to cover, to build over. And this is a very simple example, when the space is not enough, and we are trying to occupy the space in between to extend our property. And this is in the scale of the unit of our house, but just to try to consider this is as a concept. We will stand in the scale of the city, in the urban scale. Now, sometimes we are not be lucky enough to have an additional land around in our home, and we can develop if they need more space. And this is a simple example, how to extend on a simple unit, in the space in between, and to generate more space available. And this is taken consideration of the existing building from 1920, and the intervention is talking with the contemporary language. This is another important issue I would like to highlight in my discussion today. This is the tension and the view on the nighttime on another side, how the project is very simple, and how it's a demonstration, let's say, of the contemporary needs and the adaptation, and how on the scale of the residential property is demonstrate how the void in between the building, especially in suburban location, could be used and regenerate and create with a simple solution of space. Now, the same concept of this simple special extension, okay, we can transfer on the direction of the scale of the city. This is an example in London. It's not super new, it's a quite old project, let's say in the last 20 years, and again, the increasing of the lack of the space in the urban environment results in some extraordinary and innovative project. Like this is a simple passage, okay? This is an example of the very micro scale intervention in the large scale of the city, and how this connection is talking with the contemporary language, and as an important issue to connect to space. Cities never stand still, and it seems that even the smaller space will keep blossoming with building, and urban evolution continue on this unrelating and unappreciable path. This is the view from below, walking from the street. It's possible to see from below this corridor and connection. This is the section, how this project is related with the human scale and proportion, and is the bridge of the Royal Ballet School. And the idea of this movement is coming from the shape of the body and is related with the ballet topics and is related with the users of this space. And just I took to pass from the idea to fill the space, the idea to create a connection. And this is an interesting example because it's working also, let's say, as an introduction to the parametric architecture and the idea to work and focus on the possibility to match our creative space with the technology, with the new software and the new text. The idea of the connection between the building and let's say the space in between is touching. It's not only a connection, could be a bridge, a corridor, but including also the topology of the canopy. This is a proposal, was a competition, and was an idea. To be honest, curiously, is my hometown, Perugia, in Italy. And it's in a very aggressive intervention. In which way? The city, it's a medieval area, is well conserved, and there is a lot of attention for the heritage and the cultural heritage especially. But this is a project is quite innovative, quite aggressive, but responding probably to express a kind of contemporary possibility of design, architecture, and the landscape. And it's a huge contrast because basically there is a certain form, certain proportion, and this is a new element. It's like a Libeskind language in architecture, okay? And was also interesting matching again with the use of technology and energy, because it was being considered as a project innovative on the way it was considered a huge canopy to capture the sun and transform this energy for the city life. On the similar level, was the cover of my presentation. This is again is a canopy as a social cathedral. Is an example in New York. Is not a really super contemporary project, I think so 20 years ago, something like that. No, but it's interesting again how the language of the high-tech architecture, let's say, is connecting two existing buildings, and this space is coming something interesting for many different aspects, okay? Not only as a passage, but it generates some social life, no? And it's a covered area, canopy, 11,000 square feet in a battery park. And what is important to notify now is the public space, is the quality of the construction, kind of language, materiality, okay? The granite sidewalk, the quality also of the material has been used for the outdoor space, the lighting, very important aspect, the stainless steel and the glass storefront, the high quality of the technology, and especially what is interesting, the elegant junction point and interesting connection with existing facade. And the street furniture. When we're talking about the street furniture, is not only let's say the way to order by catalog and fill the space, but it's the way to match also with environment. As it has been considered, you must consider the furniture. You're going to match not only with the frame of the project, but you're going to match with the image of the city, with the perception of the city, and with the quality of the urban environment. And there's a space for all. And probably is not just satisfy your client or your customer, but it's also thinking how are the basic needs and how is the requirement of the society, etc. And it's a very interesting also the reflection of this space. The kind of the material has been used for this project are creating a kind of effect in the environment and the kind of perception and the feeling of people are using this space. And we are talking about, let's say, it's a kind of, okay, matching with this idea of the cathedral and the icon of the medieval architecture, let's say Gothic, but it's going on the direction to be an object like a sculpture, no? And it's always closer than architecture to the pure form, because sculpture is working with the form, the shape. But don't forget, architecture is also related with the social life. We are designing something not only as an aesthetic object. Of course, aesthetic, it's very important, proportion, materiality, etc. But what is important, responding also to the function, at the same time responding to a certain technique of the construction. And I think so this is quite a successful project because it's responding on the environmental aspect, economic, technological, probably on the political issue because it's responding on the quality of create a good, interesting, good public space in the high dense city like New York. This is a view from the inside of the canopy and how is this one second, I just try to check if everything is okay. How is the perception from inside? How is working the natural light and artificial light? How is the connectivity of this intermediate space and passage? Let's consider semi-open space and crossing paths inside of the city. Let's go also through another kind of perception, and of course, because it's played the project and the proposal is playing with this reflection and this natural light, depending on the time of the day, probably is it the time where all the people are there or when the natural light is done. How is the different perception of this passage and space? How is the not only the view of this interesting triangle and object in between two facades, but how is matching, technically this element, how is the junction of this element with one and another building. And then I would like to remark sometimes some reference with a good architect from where we are able to learn always and understand and study several projects and practice experience. And Tadawando is one of that, and this is one of the interesting reflection. However, all architecture has a public nature, I believe. So I would like to make a public space. Now, this is meaning we have a very huge responsibility on the way we are designing an interface with the city with our project. This is another project in Milan, well done from Fuxas and Massimiliano and Doriana Fuxas. They have an office in Rome. And I decided to use this project. You will see after why, because I compare with a recent intervention, not recent intervention, but a project become later. Okay. Now this is a huge roof, and there's for me it's a kind of carpet. It's going in a very fluid way and is matching with all the elements around. Was a quite interesting project to connect and mark the different function of the building because it's so interesting area for different exhibition, and it's a kind of walkway to interconnect. Let's say it's an interesting object in terms of techniques, technology, and materiality, and form, and design, and creativity, but at the same time has a very important function to reconnect all the space of the exhibition area. Let's go through the bird view of this intervention. Have a look how this elegant element in between. It's like a fabric is moving, but at the same time we can have an interpretation. It's like a very plastic surface is going and cover and adapting with the surrounding. And it's very elegant. It's very teeny. It's tracing. And it's really interconnected element. Of course, the pavilion and the huge building around are so massive, but the intervention is going like a liquid, like a glue in between. And there are such elements that are working now, arrive until the ground zero and again back and down. And what is important also the technology and the materiality of this intervention. This is the view from the other side. Again, let's say from the previous one looks more elegant and more refined. When we are going to have a look from another perspective, it looks really linear. It's more like not a surface, but probably like a stitch is working in between. But let's see and have an interpretation also of the context. This is some reference, sorry, this is in Italian, but I found only in Italian this data of the intervention. Well, the name of the architect, and then the art director of the project is the wife of Massimiliano Fuchs, Doriano Fuchs, they are partner in the office. The client, foundation of the Fire Milan, the place is in Milan, the surface is 2 million square meters. And the building is 1 million. I mean, it's 50-50. The cost is super expensive. Some data like the parking, the date when the project has been completed in April 2005, and the budget, some reference engineering in the pavilion, and some detail about the structure and the lighting system, etc. This is the section. How is working the surface? I couldn't find exactly the plan to reconnect, but I think so. This is a point where in the bird view is also the surface entering on the horizontal way. And I think so. This one is the surface, the tiny carpet. And this one on such element using the same language of this architecture, very dynamic with this shape, but are appearing on the big pavilion. And now is the proportion, now is interesting, like the roof is the line 0 and the form are going up and down to capture the natural light and to shape the space. This is again is the view, but more close, and we are able to recognize the structure of this surface and roof. More and more on the detail on the point where is the cavity is going down and how this element, let's say, is suspended from the structure below. This is the view from interior, and how is the reflection, probably on the sunrise or sunset, I have no idea exactly. And there are also some match, I think so, with the water element and a certain materiality of the surface, like a stone, and all the treatment of the interior space, quite interesting. And this perception from inside give another dimension of the project, of course. This is the perception on the particular point where the surface is taking this like cavity or surface on the top, and this is how is the perception. Also the sense of the space, how this system, the triangle, has been used to generate. This is, we have said thank you to the parametric architecture. I will arrive on that point. Particular point where the roof is coming down, and basically it could be an interpretation of kind of artificial forest, because it's an interesting use of the technique and technology of this element are supporting, but at the same time are going on the ground zero. It's like again the shape of the space. This is a comparison with the one element is opening on the side and including the building below, some natural element, and now is matching, converging on the ground level. This is an element, probably the central one of the roof, where the cavity also is matching with the connection and with the space around. Again, this is a true detail to have a look better how the roof, the carpet, you can call as you like, the surface is covering, is passing with this intermediate space open, very interesting. And now is touching, not touching the existing building and the pavilion around. And now is moving with a certain, let's say, fixed probably distance between the level of the roof and the maximum of the form running up. It's a detail, the life there and how the people were visiting the exhibition, and how is the life there, how the people are using the space, because we are able to design whatever we are passing in our mind by the process of creativity, by the understand the materiality, by the interpretation of the site. But then the test of each project is the quality of the life there. If the people really enjoy the space, if the people stay there and living and using, how they adapting or not on this situation. This is another project, 10 years after. It's interesting. It's I think so. It's a station, if I'm not wrong, and using the same conceptual idea. And I capture some image from this project, how is working this surface. This is, of course, conceptual is the same. We are talking about this surface, like a huge element in between. But at the same time, there is a topic of the huge infrastructure below, because this is a station. But basically is working with the same idea to match existing element and have a look at the section. It's a very, very similar, but technically and the structure is not on the same level, because in the project of Fuchses, we have this element like column, but here there is another type of way to rely. This is a comparison between them, how the huge surface are not, let's say it could be considered another building, but basically this is a building and the form and the space in between. Let's discuss about that on the coming discussion. The use of the canopy, the large surface, the application of parametric architecture, one of the important revolution of the contemporary possibility for the design, and can include a very large scale. And this is a project of a bridge. It's very interesting, and this is a walkway, let's say. It's a bridge. How is the impact with the surrounding? It's one of the interesting contexts because it's an emerging city. It's a project in Kazakhstan, and there is a reference, and probably this texture is coming from an icon, a symbolism from the history of the place, etc. There are some data about how long is the structure. The bridge is an iconic architectural masterpiece set in a contemporary Nur Sultan, as designed by the young local architect. This is another interesting aspect, how in this context, with a very fast urbanization, the use of, let's say, a very innovative form, materiality, and technology. It's a kind of interpretation of traditional element. Again, when you are going to touch, design the space in between, add some element in the patchwork, on the mosaic of the city, is related also with the reference of the graph. And it's mentioned, it's a picturesque attraction in the historic city. How this new element, like a snake, with this light during the night, with this tracing texture, is attractive in this historical context, with some reference with the tradition of the country, but in this exploded city. Have a look, how is the shape and the skyline of the city, a new tower and skyscraper, probably it's a very fast development. Other image, 3D of the project, how is matching from one view to another one, how is easy to understand all of these elements, the high density of the construction and the recent real estate, probably plus some develop. And now there's a fluid element is matching and working and is connecting. Now, design between the building, design on the void, urban design is not to only fill a space, it's not to only a plaza, but including also this type of intervention, okay? Well, it's related also with the natural element, another important things. Now, how this design, including the connection, the function to cross from one side to another side, but at the same time is matching with all the mosaic of the city. And of course, here there is a note below, is composed with the parametric and computational tools. Without would be very, very impossible and difficult. 2,500 individual facade pieces of this shell, wave, and shelter of the public space and give a sense of place. What is the sense of the place? The sense of the place is the talk I had before about the introduction. Why the sense of the place? Because probably there is some icon or reference on the history, on the texture of the Kazakh architecture and art and craft, or some traditional element, and this is probably generate, this new project generate a sense of place, a sense of belonging of the people, the citizens are living there, and we use this bridge every day. This is some detail about how it's possible through the parametric architecture arrive on a certain definition and detail, how is working the composition of this element, and this is from inside, how this surface, this texture, this let's say shape generate this interesting connection with the natural light, and this projection on the pavement. I don't know if you're able to see, but it's not only the contact with the sky and the natural light, but at the same time it's the reflection of the texture on the pavement. This is a very interesting double effect. Again, another image about the perception and how this shell filtering the city and the perception of the city, and probably depending on the position of the sun and the natural light, how these elements are going to create a different projection and texture. Well, through the parametric architecture and new technology, this is another scale. It's the same topics. It's a bridge. It's an intervention on the urban scale and urban design. It's a connection point, but it's completely different contents and it's a completely different topics. What is important in this project, I'm sure you know, because it was quite well promoted, and if you are follow the magazine of architecture, I'm sure also the update through the social or whatever has been really highlight this issue. Well, this is an important element because it's related with the prefabricated system and a kind of materiality, metallic curves, emulation with the contours, the newly opened pedestrian bridge in Amsterdam in stainless steel. And it's a cooperation by Arup, Max 3D, and experimental way to have this urban element, pre-design, prefabricate, very interesting. And there is a kind of research also on there. This is the preparation of the work. And let's say we can consider a work in progress of that. And this is the interface with the facade and with the skyline and the silhouette of the city, how the materiality and the color. For me, I think so is a kind of interpretation of this element of the decoration of the city, and is matching with the context because using a very contemporary technology, and it's a prototype, it's an interesting experimental way to touch, this urban design by this technology, but at the same time is matching with the surrounding. There is a certain of connection. One detail, how is the passage and how this interesting form and shape and materiality of this element, the point to locate there. And I took different article from different platforms for architects, I think, so you can find information, but in most of the slide I already had the link below to go more deeply with information. This is the preparation and the progress for that. Again, this is the metal locus, probably is the interaction with the production of this element. And by this website, you can download or you can have a look at several videos with different steps of this interesting work. The time of the lecture is short. We don't have any possibility to have a look everything, but just to give some suggestion and reference. And this is the preparation drawing, how it's interesting. Please, I have a message for all of you students. I mean, the machine, the software, it's amazing, but it's related with the decisions coming from our creativity. Now, please, just to remind, don't use the technology, use the technology as a tool. You thinking something, and through the possibility of the technology, you're going to develop your idea, but don't expect the machine can create the project. This is a huge mistake for your study, for your career, for your understanding of any theory, any reference, any project, any experience in design process. Please, it's very, very important. Please consider the capacity to use the machine, to use the technology to realize what you are thinking on. Then, of course, it's normal, the project change, and through the possibility of the progress, and like modeling by hand, it's the same modeling by the software on the machine. Probably the form will be developed and shaped on a different way. This is an example of the progress of the design. And I took, let's see if this video is working. Yes.
At first, they were little worm-like blobs. It was hard to see, but we saw a universe of possibilities. Of course, many things went wrong. A welding machine exploded, nozzles got stuck, and the robot got disoriented. But then they became long lines, complex curves, and double curved oval tubes. It was like drawing in midair. And after endless testing, we were able to speed up the process and produce this complex sculpture of lines. And now we are ready for the ultimate poster project, to test all facets of this highly promising printing technology. A large-scale object that is functional and meaningful. We are going to print the steel bridge in Amsterdam.
I think it is very interesting, the last part, when the guy working in the model reminds me when I was a student and every model is made by hand, working and recycling all the material. And especially the last video, the progress to see from the beginning until the final composition. Thanks to the technology, this was just a shot from the, and this is a comment from the designer and the author. No, I strongly believe in the future of the digital production and the local production in the new craft. The video, I decided to show this video, basically it's the work on the back, no, it's not really the design, but we have to think any idea in the paper and the software is coming the reality. And now there are a lot of crash when we are passing from our design in the model 3D also on the reality. And it's calling the new craft because the process to realize your idea is the process to update and to evaluate if it's working or not. This bridge will show how 3D printing finally enters the world of large scale. And this is why I use in this project in the urban design scale, a functional object and sustainable material while allowing unprecedented freedom of form. During the video, I was talking about amazing curve, and you remember the screen has been divided in two parts. One was the drawing and another one the modeling and to realize. Now, of course, the capacity of the mathematical calculation are so large, but don't forget the fastidious coming from the end drawing always and from the physical model. And this is a ground and preparation to pass after on the software possibility. The symbolism of the bridge is a beautiful metaphor to connect the technology of the future with the old city. And I told you by my interpretation, the shape and the form is taking some inspiration from the decorative element of the facade in a way that bring out the best of both worlds. And this is an amazing, let's say, aspiration for that. Let's pass to another example. This is in a very large scale. It's a space in between, but basically it's a huge building in between. It's like a micro city in between. But if you're looking like this at the model of the city at the scale of San Francisco, this is looking like an intermediate space. Now, it's a project by Pelly Clark and Pelly Architect Group, in California, and it's a very large size, 1.5 million square feet. I mean, it's a recent 4 or 5 years ago. Now, this is a view inside. It is like a big boat. I don't know how to call this a huge element in between, but this is the scale of the city, and this is a space in between. It's not, but it's really another huge building. We will see when we are trying to understand the scale and the dimension of this element. It's a transit center, okay, in San Francisco, linking 11 transit system and connecting the city to the region. I mean, it's touching the scale of San Francisco, but basically it's a bypass for the very large distance and scale. The innovative, highly sustainable design, including 2 hectare, okay, 20,000 square meter, 5 and 4 acre around, rooftop park that will ensure the growth of a new mixed-use neighborhood. Now, it's a contradiction, it's a paradox. This space in between is like a huge building, is like a mix of the city, but it's interesting. In between of this high level, high skyscraper, high density, what's going on? And this is urban landscape, this is urban design, this is architecture, this is technology, everything together. Let's say in the article has been commented in the spirit of the New York Grand Central Terminal. I don't know if you have a look from the cinema maybe, or you've been there. How was the function of the Grand Central Terminal in New York, and the London Victoria Station and the Transit Center. Let's say, assuming this is the character of the huge infrastructure inside the city, of the great city. This is the heart of the transit center, and this is the rooftop park with the connection of many activity and let's say interaction or design with the nature. I give to you the interpretation of that. Let's say this is, we consider it a urban landscape, no? Because this is how to shape the space and the form and connect the building by the use of the nature. And there are cafes, children playground, quiet area to read, to relax, to stay, picnic, and simple talking, or you have your break. Let's say it's a public space. Okay. Also, the park presents a wide variety of bi-area ecology, from oak tree and the veteran mesh. Now, it seems there is a deeply study of the type of vegetation. This is another point I would like to highlight, because most of you are students, and I know how is the mentality, to finish the building and then to put the green carpet behind. And I'm really suffering a lot with my students about that. Probably this is an example, exaggerate scale, but have a look how is a result to design with the vegetation. What I'm meaning? I'm meaning select type of tree, type of plants, and there is an interesting connection with the environment, and decide how the form and the shape could be a combination of the space designed by the green element and the physical environment a bit. Is another point of view. Below the rooftop, what's appearing is a huge element, and this is how is appearing on the human scale. Have a look how is the proportion and how many levels below the rooftop. But anyway, it's touching just the ground of the skyscraper. It's very interesting, the materiality, and again, it's through the parametric architecture. This is a semi-tracing surface, very nice. This is the perception and the ground of the mobility, and how is the relation with the city. This is how appearing this element, this horizontal element suspended with the garden in the top. But anyway, it's really teeny if we compare with the scale of the city. Now, the proportion of the intervention and the relationship with the surrounding is very important, always depending where we are, in which scale, in which proportion, and just it's related. It's related also with the urban context, especially the city of San Francisco. It's an American city, it's a great city with a structure, with a certain high density, a certain level of tower and building. The space inside is quite complex and interesting. There is a matching with the natural light. There is a connection from the floor to the sky, and there is this way to match the interior space. Probably some use of the color and the form of the decoration is related with the garden in the top. This is a view and interaction with the city, but this is the a section 3D exploded, okay, perspective section, where we are able to see from the level of the roof, the 3 level of the transportation, the transit, etc. I mean, it's a massive intervention. Now, how we are able to call this one space in between or fill the space? This is like a skyscraper, a mini skyscraper in the urban design with the surrounding. But it is good also to consider the proportion, the level. No, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4 high level, and 2 of them are underground. One is the ground, one is elevate, and then there is the terrace. A very interesting dimension in terms of space. Again, this is an interface with the city, and now is the impact of the different language. Different language, what meaning? Meaning the language of architecture. How is the skin of this building, the materiality of this building is completely different from the surface of the building around. Because this is innovative, probably the building are 1970, 1980, 1960. Have a look, something there more and more old. And this is a new thing. Now, you always must be respond with the design of contemporary possibility. I mean, you can have an interpretation of historical site, no, like the bridge in Amsterdam. Okay, probably it's taking this reference with decorative, but it's talking the language of 2020, 2090, 2015, because you must be representative of the time we are living. Don't forget architecture as a social responsibility. This is a really public space for everybody. It's a transit in the city, everybody passing, everybody has the right to live the urban life with a very high quality of the space and representative, not with the contemporary. We cannot build a copy of skyscraper 1970. In a very, very small scale, it's another type of intervention in the, let's say this is, it's a merely micro if you compare with the micro with the macro before. But it's a way to use the void of the city, the free space, also with a very micro intervention, and not with a very massive intervention, with the micro intervention, no massive, but also temporary, because this one is an installation, okay? It's just to jump a huge with the scale. And anyway, this simple surface, using the same principle of parametric architecture, okay, is creating an interesting meeting point. Here we are, it's a very, a corner of the city. We are in a well done structure, let's say, the urban design is there. It's a very micro intervention. This is the progress. There are natural elements, the built environment, historical town. How is working this element? Very interesting, innovative form. There are some silhouette and sketch here. This is how the space become alive for the people, especially for the kids. They really enjoy, they like, they're using this wall also to climb and to play. There are more photos also with them, very interesting. This is the composition and the progress, and a very interesting idea to use this spot and to generate this wave. It's also eco, let's say, as a recycled and again, here behind there is this process of the how has been realized this element, okay? And then on the same progress, how the different life, these elements become a kind of surface, relaxed space for kids and playground. At the same time, for another users, for the teenagers, it's coming like, a place to probably, now today everything is later with the selfie and the image. Probably these teenagers, they are play, but at the same time they take a photo there. And this is another view from the top, how this single element has been composed. It's the principle, let's say, related to the parametric architectural composition. Let's see if the video is working. I'm not sure the quality is very good, because when you download the video, the quality is going to be less, but let's try to see some progress of this work. There is no music, no voice over, just to understand how it's been composed and repeated the same concept in another context. The view by night, our simple element, in the night time, we can generate a safe space, not only the beauty, the aesthetic. I'm passing, there is a violet purple carpet there. Today is violet, tomorrow is yellow, because there is a lot of possibility to use a different color and light during the night, but it's coming a safe space, it's coming a quality of the urban life for people. And this is a very macro intervention. It's not the terminal in San Francisco, but no, it's a very simple element. It's 100 time less of the previous intervention, but it's working and give a kind of successful responding for the life of the people there. The designer explained, we are highlighting and questioning this pervasive condition and also empowering people of Mexico City. The context is completely different to San Francisco. We are in Central America, to reclaim ownership of their public space or book it at time if we only have a few days. And this was a comment from the designer. This is the life there, how the people really enjoy this space. They're meeting there, they're staying there, the kids are playing there, adults are chatting there. Again, another reminder with the theory. Sorry, this is a quote from Jane Jacobs, a very important reference. I really suggest to read some article, especially a couple of books from her, talking about the public space and the way to think, you know, and to achieve a good goals to design a good space for our community. Streets and their sidewalk, the main public space of a city, are the most vital organs. Now, why is important to design? And public space is everything. The semi-public space, semi-private space is our common space in our gate community or garden, or like the green space in the school for our kids. Doesn't matter. It's the way to share the space together. Whatever is how to our private unit where we are living, in a public building, public institution, we must consider the same principle. And Jane Jacobs is an excellent reference for that, to remarking the vitality. This was another extract for this project. How was the preparation of this one? And maybe you can have some data of the project. It was in 2017, and the name of the designer, etc. This is the last project. I'm going to end my presentation. Metropole Parasol is a wooden structure located in La Encarnacion Square in Seville, in Spain. I think so it's very famous because all my students are using this one as a reference. And the project was designed by the German architect Jürgen Mayer and complete in 2011. It's a project that's taking already 10 years old. Its dimension is 100 for 70 meters, and approximately the height is 26 meters. And the claim is to be the largest wooden structure in the world. This is an important note. We switched another kind of material. This is the impact of this progress of this construction of this element with the surrounding, different materiality, different form, different dimension, different scale, but this is a glue in between of the existing building. This is a really urban design project. This is the view from the top. It's a completely different form. This is what is that? It's like omelette, let's say, in this structure. But if you kindly can attend the video a few minutes, you will understand the value of this proposal. And now, a completely different form is possible is matching with the reality. Also, if they are talking the same language. This is an interesting section. How is working this element, completely different section of the silhouette of the existing city and very aggressive, let's say. This is the model, the physical model. It's always important to touch and to understand a miniature of the possible reality you are going to change and transform in the city. And please, now it's a few minutes, but it's very important. I'm so sorry because the video is in the Spanish language, but the subtitles are in English, and it's very important to listen also the comment. Just I would like to remark before the video starts the importance, what's going on behind the form and the aesthetic, and the responsibility we have for that.
Suerte que conocí el mercado de la Encarnación antiguo. Fueron sus últimos años, los 5 o 6 últimos años, y yo recuerdo grandes galerías, 4 grandes galerías, por donde estaban los puestos de carne, que realmente tenían una vida increíble. Venían a la Encarnación, venían de todos los pueblos alrededor de Sevilla.
Bueno, en el antiguo mercado yo empecé, mi madre tenía un puesto de pollo en el mercado antiguo, y mi padre, por supuesto, y nosotros, como éramos los 5, pues le ayudábamos a mi madre hasta que terminaba de hacer su faena.
Bueno, yo me llamo Domingo, soy frutero desde hace 53 años. Este barrio ha sido comercialmente de los más importantes de Sevilla. Entonces, esto creó, a raíz de que se derribó este mercado, hace 38 años, y nos fuimos allí, esto se fue decayendo comercialmente.
Cuando cerraron el mercado de la Encarnación, pues fue una catástrofe para el comercio de la zona, porque el mercado provisional realmente no tenía la llamada que tenía el mercado central, el antiguo mercado central. Había ya otros mercados a los alrededores, el mercado de ferias, el mercado de entradores. Lo que necesitábamos era un mercado nuevo y que los comerciantes tuvieran un sitio digno para trabajar.
Pues el pasado esto era como, vamos a decir que esto era el corazón de Sevilla, porque se lleva 34 años, en la cual eso es un solar, totalmente un escaparate un poco vergonzoso en el centro de Sevilla que se encuentre ese solar.
La reacción de los sevillanos al principio fue terrorífica. Entonces, la gente no entendía que una arquitectura tan moderna pudiese convivir con el centro de la ciudad, que tiene una estructura muy tradicional.
La primera vez que vi el proyecto con la maqueta, pensé, digo, esta gente está loca, perdida, esto aquí no pega, esto a mí no me gusta, a nadie le gustaba, porque los sevillanos no estábamos muy partidarios con la estructura tan moderna y tan galáctica, y no, es que no estamos acostumbrados en un centro de Sevilla una estructura tan moderna.
Bueno, nos pareció un poco como todas las cosas, y todavía nos sigue pareciendo, ¿no? Hay algo que no encajaba como en una plaza de esta dimensión, no encajaba una cosa tan enorme como esta. Pero segundo, claro, a lo que habíamos pasado y tenemos, pues ya sí nos fuimos enterando que esto iba a ser algo para el futuro.
Pero luego con el tiempo han ido valorando todo lo que ha cambiado el área y es muy positiva. Ahora mismo es muy positivo.
Pues sí, poco a poco se ve que cada vez está teniendo más impacto social y comercial cada vez mayor, ¿sí?
Este proyecto realmente lo que le ha dado una nueva vida al barrio. Era un barrio que estaba de calles mortecinas, de locales cerrados, sin comercio, con muchas viviendas desocupadas, y ahora mismo en los alrededores no hay locales libres. Está ya todo ocupado, hay muchos comercios que ya están funcionando, otros que están en proyecto de funcionar.
Entonces, ahora mismo ya se está reavivando todo. Se están abriendo, usted verá que se está abriendo toda la industria por aquí, ¿no? Ya cada vez hay menos locales cerrados. Y eso dice mucho en favor de que está viniendo mucho público por aquí.
Ahora el que viene a la Campana, que está a 200 metros, no puede estar sin venir a la Encarnación. Entonces realmente lo que está es desplazando el centro turístico de Sevilla hasta la Encarnación. Más que desplazando, recuperándolo, porque esto siempre ha sido una parte esencial de la ciudad.
La ciudad acababa en la Campana, el centro de la ciudad acababa en la Campana. Aquí la gente cogía el autobús y se iba. Ahora todos los comercios de la zona son nuevos. Se han abierto o se han rediseñado.
Pero cuando yo entro por la mañana y veo ese arco, y veo esa claridad, y veo esa luminosidad, y no veo nada viejo, todo es nuevo, a mí lo que me da es vitalidad. Yo me siento feliz, nada más que viendo lo que es la estructura y viendo todo lo que es el entorno del cambio que ha pegado esto.
Ha habido muchos críticos con el proyecto y cuando lo han visto terminado ya se han replanteado lo que pensaban, porque realmente es algo deslumbrante. Yo creo que será uno de los atractivos de Sevilla.
Que lo único que me queda es el sinsabor de que me voy a jubilar pronto y que lo voy a disfrutar un poco por lo maravilloso que es esto y lo a gusto que se trabaja aquí.
Que Metropol Parasol es lo mejor que me ha podido pasar, la verdad.
Well, I hope the message is clear because, of course, our language, our interest is to understand the techniques, to understand the form, to understand our match with the surrounding. But the social impact is very important. And basically, we can think whatever we like, but if the project is not going to create also the economical aspect, because this roof has created regenerate the life there, because in the interview they're talking about abandoned houses and then a new level of housing and the commercial activity. I mean, people are coming back, and what is important, the mix. I think so. This is a great example, know how to mix the things together. And but of course, not all the projects can be successful. And please, I don't want to pass the message we have to design a huge mushroom to put everywhere. No, this is one case, one example for this specific context. Okay, and the materiality also, because one of the questions came to me through the coordinator of this event. It's about. Such a glass covering may not be sustainable. Sorry, but let me finish the lecture and then I will go by the question. And this is the importance of this case study. I would like to close my presentation with this reference from Richard Rogers. Architecture is about public space held by building. Now, I don't want to drive you in the direction we don't have to design the building. Absolutely not. It's a provocation, but it's the way to think also in the space in between as a very important. Well, thank you so much for asking to attending and for asking a few questions. The first question I got from the chat is about such a glass covering may not be sustainable in the some altitude areas such as the Gulf country and the region. Are the way to fit the problem of the region? And I reply in the chat also, this is a good, the last project I presented, there is a good alternative, this type of canopy to avoid any problem with the high temperature, especially in the Gulf area. But I suggest also to have a look at traditional, have a look from the past and how is the possibility to learn from the past, but with the application of the new technology. And probably you will become a very good designer when you are be able to match the needs of the contemporary society and form also the application of the 3D, but respecting the environment and considering the climate change issue, because it's a very, very important aspect to design with a very sensitive approach, because what we are creating in our city, sometimes we are creating really a bomb, because consuming a lot of energy and create a not very comfortable front of wall zone. The second question is about, can you tell us about the coverage used in the Mantrab city in United Arab Emirates? I think so is related with the first one, and was a similar answer. I don't know if there are more questions. Let's see what is writing from the, I will pass quickly on all the presentation just in case something else will come to your mind. What are the software used for the environmental analysis? Well, I'm not specialized on that, but I think so if you are dealing with the certificate or you're dealing with environmental control system in your study, for sure you will be addressed by your professor with a specific software, because I'm not expertise on environmental control system, but I just took some projects because I'm working in the urban design level, but not in environmental control system. I cannot really suggest a specific one, but I'm sure, because also we have at the German university environmental control system, and there are a specific software you are dealing during the course and then on the professional practice. But please be careful, it's not only controlling how is the consumption of the building, but it's designing before to avoid a minimum of emission and a minimum of consumption. And I back to my cover, and I think so it's enough from my side. Let me check if there is anything else from the direction. Question number 4, what are the process or the approach used in the form finding and linking with the concept? This is a very tricky question. Well, the creative process is unique for each context, for each team, for each also, let's say, team and group, okay? And I think so the balance in between, the understanding the reality from where coming the inspiration, but please don't underestimate also the impact on the social life. I mean, it's very important not to process on the same level. Don't be in love only with the form, and then this form is not possible to realize with the materiality. Don't be in love only with the city, and then you just copy paste something from what existing there. I mean, the way to balance, interact them is, but it's important to touch all of them. Then, of course, the emphasis could be more in one than another one. But let's say, and very important, also understanding the context, reading the city. And when you take an inspiration, your case study, the language you're going to decide to use in architecture, go deeply. If you are in love with Zadid, try to understand how really Zadid working, how really is the concept behind, the materiality behind, and especially how is the way to have an interpretation for you in the place where you're going to work. I mean, find a good way to copy, to have a good inspiration, but to transfer on the context what you're going to apply it. This is my, wait, there is another question. How to link between the modern design and the heritage building without affecting the historical background and the user experience? Well, this is reserved another lecture, because the important thing is understanding the historical context, okay? Reading, understanding the value, having a good interpretation. Then this is the basic ground. But from that, how you're going to respond, if you are going to be like Libeskind, super aggressive with steel and glass, or you're going to be minimal like Salto de Mora, this is, I don't know. This is, I'm a kind of professor, I addressing and helping my students, but I cannot take a decision for you. I can address you, your inspiration, and I can really help you to read and understand the context, but there is no one receipt. Is the capacity, but of course, you can be aggressive, you can be very visible, you can be very minimal, and you are coming invisible. This is really a different approach, but there is always maybe something in between. And learn a lot from practice, from case studies. Very important you understand what exists in the contemporary architecture, because you know people are looking in our language is the visual language, and we are seeing things when it's coming out and we are copy. We want the house like the house our neighbor. You understand what I mean? I mean, please training with sketching, with photo, with collage. Try to use a lot of possibility and work by alternative. There is no one solution. There is always few possibilities, and then you keep one, and then you're going on the direction. And each design process is different. Let me see if there is any. Thank you so much. Okay, no more questions. Come on. Okay, I hope it's fine. Thank you. I don't know. This is I really hate this not physical contact. I hope next year, the coming event, we have a possibility to stay together. Like the first event was amazing for me to speak to the student face to face and not interface with my colleagues. But this is what you have, and thanks to the technology in this COVID time. Thank you. Good evening to everybody. Bye-bye. I'm going to close the connection.